Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is the breakdown from, I don't know where people are at the moment, but it's not good, is it? It's not good as a Manchester United fan at the moment to be in this situation. I haven't changed. I think when the game's over, you tend to calm down a little bit after a game. I'm not calming down at all with this. I think it's just unbelievably, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst performance I've seen from United in a Manchester derby in a very, very long time. And we've been beaten by more, but it's just the way we approach that game. And it is pure. It's a pure act of sabotage on Manchester United Football Club to keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his coaches in place. And I would call it sabotage at this point because it is so abundantly clear that they are not good enough. To keep them in role is sabotage against Manchester United. And sabotage is a very strong word, of course it is, but it is. That's the situation we're in now. It's pure sabotage to keep him in the job. How did he survive getting smashed 5-0 against Liverpool? And now I actually think the Man City game was worse than the Liverpool game. I do. Because I think Liverpool smashed us, but I think the only reason Man City didn't smash us was because of David De Gea and the fact that he parked the bus. There was no attacking intent. I mean, for the second half, you're attacking the Stretford end and we did nothing. And you know what annoyed me the most is it was pouring down with rain. We're attacking the Stretford end. It's a Manchester derby, and Edison at least 4 times in that second half gets the ball in a pressure situation and just dinks it to either side, and then they pass the way through us like we're a bunch of 4-year-olds. It was just shambolic, absolutely shambolic, and I can't move away from the fact that that is just, I just can't remember the last time we played against Manchester City at Old Trafford and put up a white flag before the whistle had even been kicked. It's sabotage. He's just got to go. Board is waiting to see how Arsenal, Spurs, Hammers do first. If they don't get past us, they might keep Ollie for Watford and possibly more, says Chiri. And TTV, welcome to the Members Club. We'll get your comments in tonight. But look, what I've been told is that Manchester United are seriously considering sacking Solskjaer again. And I just can't see... would you take Graham Potter and why, says Matt Ross. Can you come back to that in a minute and remind me about that in a minute? But let me just get through some of the headlines, because I want to talk about the comments of Gary Neville and Roy Keane and how Mika Richards, an ex-Man City player, came across as more passionate about Manchester United's situation this afternoon than Gary Neville and Roy Keane did. I thought they came across really badly, and we'll talk about why in a minute. Legends of the club, I like them both, but I thought they came across as, again, rescuing their mate over what's better for Manchester United, blaming it on the players. I also think, as I said, it's the worst performance I've ever seen from Manchester United. And we've also had Harry Maguire, undermining the manager after the game, which you might have missed as well. But, to start off with, I just want to say that Karen says, I cried my eyes out after the game. I can't believe how poor we were. And Sam says, I've supported Ollie all through this, but something has to change now. It's gone on too long. There's no end game, no prospect of a play style zip, says Sam. Also, we're going to come back to that Graham Potter question. The way I understand things at the moment is that Manchester United are meant to be having a meeting tonight, but certainly will have a meeting over the next 24 hours to decide what the next stage is going to be. Now, considering he was ridiculously close to the sack after the Liverpool game, and the parameters were set for Spurs, Atalanta and Man City. Well, he's won one against a crap Spurs side who sacked their manager. We scammed a draw against Atalanta because of Ronaldo's individualism, and we were battered by Man City. There is absolutely nothing in the last 3 games to give him a stay of execution any further. And people are talking about Ralf Rangnick. I would bring him in. I think he's 63 years of age, very good reputation in European football. I'd like him to be our director of football, so bring him in as our manager until the end of the season and then let him bring in a manager and he becomes director of football. I would love to see us do that. Could United do something that competent? I'm still stunned that we bypassed Antonio Conte to stick with Ollie. I mean, this is incompetence on another level again, but Norwich have sacked their manager tonight and he won. They beat Brentford and they sacked him. They've obviously been planning to do it for a while, waiting to get to the international break, and they've done it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer must be sacked. I don't think there is anybody tonight that would say it's divisive to say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should be sacked. And can I just say, everyone's a genius if I told you so. It's so blinding and obvious he's got to go now. Enough is enough, says Melps. I think you know what? Actually, I've been thinking about it all afternoon, and whilst people are saying the board won't do it, I don't think they can't not do it. I don't think they can not do it. I think they want to get through till June. I think they want to get through till June 2025 with Ollie. But the reality is he's crap. He's crap. Carrick's crap. McKenna's crap. Phelan's crap. They've all got to go. And they've got to go now, tonight, tomorrow or Monday. They've got to go because they're never going to be good enough. The players are not playing for them. And I don't think it's the players downing tools. I think they want to play for him, but his tactics are so crap, they just can't. The players are not playing for him. And it's not like Mourinho where they drop down their tools. I think they want to play for him. They just can't because he's so crap. Like they just can't. It's like trying to play a game of snakes and ladders without a dice. We'd love to play snakes and ladders, but there's no dice, Ollie, and they just can't play. So the players aren't playing for him. The fans aren't really with him now anymore. I think even the most ardent fans are like, loyalty only cuts so far. He's got to go this international break. It's just whether United are prepared enough. I cried when I've done that one. Get us Ten Hag and Van der Sar, says EM. I am numb. I don't feel anything anymore. It's like the God has nicked the ball, but at the end of the tunnel and it's all dark, says Mojo. With Conte gone, can Simeone be a good replacement over Zidane? I don't want Simeone, Varane. I don't want Simeone. Wade says, if Ollie really cared about the club, he would leave for the benefit of the players. Well, I disagree with that. I've got to say, I do not think Solskjaer should just walk out. It's £7.5 million that's better in his pocket than the Glazers, to be fair. Lingard's brother posting about Ollie and the pundits. Obvious bias for him by blaming players too, says Ellie. The way Ollie looked after hearing what Maguire said, or come back to that Gordon Murray. Beyond belief that Ollie is still here with his cronies, stranger than fixed since his Alpha Gaming. Mark, you were saying give him time at the end of the season because there is no point being Ollie out, and what's happening is proof of that. Even with his hopeless performance, the board still won't do a damn thing. I haven't said that, Matt, so I don't know what you're talking about. Rangnick seems like the best option if Zidane isn't available, says Jakic. If you can't get these players up for a Manchester derby, he's officially lost the dressing room, says Sam. And hi Mark, hope you're well. Ollie is keeping you very busy, isn't he? Don't worry, this nightmare will end soon, says Steve Cullen. Ollie said at the end of the game today that basically we need to come out like wounded animals against Watford. And I tell you what, I had to walk around the garden 4 times, and I haven't got a very big garden, and so that's why I had to do it 4 times. I was bloody fuming that the manager of Manchester United has got the cheek to come out and say we need to come out like a wounded animal against Watford. And I thought, oh, I bet you want to come out like a wounded animal against Watford because you're the bloody favourites in that, aren't you? Even though Watford will probably beat us under Ollie, we're the favourites. And I thought, what, wounded animal? Did we come out like a wounded animal after Villa, after Everton, after Leicester, after Liverpool, after we're just shit. I don't want any more of this talk of wounded animal, bullshit, bounce back, we go again crap. Even the players daren't tweet about it now. So just end it, get it over with and start a new chapter. And never put another ex-player anywhere near that football club. I don't want them as a director of football. I don't want them as a coach. I don't want them as a bloody advisory board member. I do not want an ex-footballer of this football club anywhere near this club anymore. And I know that's really harsh. I want to see our ex-players on Sky, on BT, on TalkSport, writing a book, doing a appear on the fan channel if you want to. I don't want you anything to do with the club because I think every single one of you, with the exception of probably Paul Scholes, has outed yourself as out of touch and biased. I don't want that. I don't want any of them near that football club because none of them that have been gobbing off for the last few months have come out of this looking good. Loyalty over bloody common sense, basically. They've made themselves look bloody ridiculous, and I don't want any ex-player near this club anymore, and I'll keep saying this till the cows come home. Sir Alex Ferguson never played for Manchester United. He never coached at Manchester United. He came down from Aberdeen and he made the United way. And Sir Alex Ferguson retired, and now we've got Ollie, who played under Sir Alex, and everyone's like, he's trying to do the United way. The United way under Sir Alex Ferguson was the Sir Alex Ferguson way. He understood that United had to play a certain way and develop youth, and that was basically it. Everything else was his. Well, why do you need to be an ex-player to do that? Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't an ex-player. What if Ten Hag or Zidane or another manager comes in and goes, right, I know I've got to develop youth and I know I've got to play attacking football. Fine, I'll do it my way. That's all we want. We just need a new Manchester United with somebody who wants to develop youth and play attacking football. It doesn't have to be an ex-player, and we need to move on from it. 4 touches in the opposition box, the lowest since Opta began in 2008, says Gary. Oh, mate, Gary, it was a shambles. It was worse than Liverpool. Anybody who's thinking, well, we didn't lose 5-0, so we won't get the sack. It was worse than Liverpool. It was abysmal. These ex-players are arguably ruining the reputations as much as Ollie. Keane slating Bay and De Gea, it's despicable. I'm going to talk about that, don't worry, Deadwood. Manrick till the end of the season, some solidarity for the team time being, then Ten Hag at the start of the season, says PJW. Skull Thuggery, thanks for becoming a member. Only ex-player I would take at this club is Van der Sar in director of football role. Bring Rangnick ASAP, says Lil. And Ashton will spin. We got 6 points off third. Board will only sack Ollie once Champions League possibility is over. Daniel says that. It's ridiculous. Did you hear about them ending his post-match presser early because they didn't want to answer anything? We're rotting, says My Big Melons. And would you not get Van der Sar if he had a chance to get him as director of football, says Aryan. And sick and tired of media people giving Scott a free pass saying he's this young energy. You know what, Farzan? I'm glad that you said that. 2 answers I want to give you there because there's a lot to get into tonight. One, Van der Sar as director of football. Why? He's worked with a small budget bringing in small quality players. Why would Van der Sar be a good director of football? Again, I don't want an ex-player at this football club. And if that means missing out on Van der Sar, I'm happy to do with it. Why are we obsessed with ex-players coming into this football club? The only ex-player I'd be interested in at the moment is Laurent Blanc as an interim because he did a great job at Bordeaux. He hardly played for United. I'm not interested in ex-players. If I never see an ex-player involved in the club again, it'll be too soon. I'm not bothered. And I like a lot of them. I don't want them anything to do with it. But what a great point about Scott McTominay. Fred was useless today. I've heard Roy Keane go in on Fred. I've had of social media going in on Fred. And look, Fred was crap, but why is it Fred over McTominay? It's the foreign thing again, isn't it? De Gea got blamed for the goal by certain ex-players. What are you on about? He literally stopped us being 5-0 down at half-time. He makes a little bit of an error on the second goal, which is basically Maguire and Shaw's fault. Oh, De Gea... Fred, everyone's going on about bloody Fred. Fred's not a footballer, this, that and the other. I never heard one word about Scott McTominay from Roy Keane, and he's going in on Fred. McTominay's a bloody joke. Mika Richards said, the worst thing he said this afternoon, I like McTominay, he's a young player. He's 25 next month. 25 next month. He's in his bloody prime, mate. He's not a young player. Fred was awful, but why does McTominay get by? Oh, because he shouts, let's go in the dressing room. He's crap. And Fred's crap. They're both crap players. And it's not even their fault. McTominay should be on the bench if you need him in the last 20 minutes against Norwich. He should not be starting games in the midfield against Man City. He was running around like a bloody indecisive person at a buffet. Oh, shall I have an Indian? Shall I have a Chinese? Shall I have fish and chips? It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. But nobody wants to say McTominay was crap. But yeah, let's jump on Fred. Why? Because he's foreign. I mean, the only thing they're gutted about tonight is that they can't blame Pogba and Martial. You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how the foreign players, and they go after them. And it's the same with the managers. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not seen as a foreign manager because he spent most of his career playing for Manchester United as a player. The treatment of Van Gaal and Mourinho was 10 times worse than what Ollie gets treated, and yet he's a worse coach with no bloody trophies. Thank God I had work. I don't think I can handle Lawrence. Lawrence says that. No one's talking about Shaw's mistake. Gary and Keane would have murdered him had he not been an English player, says Rishab. Did you see the clip of De Gea going down the tunnel at half-time? Felt sorry for the guy. De Gea was our best player again, says Steve. Did you see Pep's presser just now? He spoke glowingly about how Klopp is his greatest rival and how good Liverpool are. Says Amit. 21% of our home defeats in Premier League history is under Ollie. He just cannot stay in the job any longer. As I said, it is total and utter sabotage to keep him in a job. And I never thought this. Sorry, Kit Mark, but Keane did say that Fred and McTominay were a problem and they won't win trophies at United. Well, I only heard bits of it, Apollo, so I apologise in relation to that. But what I did hear, and this was the best of the lot, and I even did a clip on Twitter this afternoon about it. I was listening to... I'd finished my match reaction, I turned on Sky, and I'm listening to Mika Richards and Roy Keane and Gary Neville. And Mika Richards is sat there doing what we do every bloody day, and he's saying the standards... And Gary Neville is basically saying to Mika Richards, are you saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should get the sack then, Mika? Is that what you're saying? They don't want to say, I understand as pundits, whether it's Mika Richards, Gary Neville, Roy Keane, it's not a good look to sit on Sky Sports and say sack a manager because they're dealing in the professional world. That's, you know, that is mainstream media and it's professional. And I agree, it's not a great look to say sack the manager. We can do it because it's fan media, whatever you want to call it. But Mika Richards basically said sack the manager without saying it. He said, no, I'm not going to say sack the manager, Gary, but what I'm going to say is the standards of Manchester United have got to be better than that. And they couldn't come back on it. And then Gary Neville said something to the effect of, well, I think Mika Richards said to Gary Neville, are you telling me there's not a manager that can do a better job than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer right now? And his answer basically was, well, United have tried that. They've tried that with Van Gaal and Mourinho, and that didn't work out well. And I was like, oh my God, he's saying this on national TV in front of millions of people. Mourinho and Van Gaal didn't work out well, so stick with Ole, basically. I mean, and also, you know what? Mourinho won the Carabao Cup and the Europa League and finished second. Van Gaal won the FA Cup. Like, they may not have done what they deserve to get the sack, but they did a better job than Ole. They never bloody set up in a derby at home and parked the bus to that extent. I just don't get it. And then they tried to put it on the players again. It's just I don't know whether Ole's got them on WhatsApp saying defend me, because it's just, these are clever people. They've played at the highest level. They've got stories to tell and they can analyse a game. But I tell you what, over the recent weeks, some of our ex-players, Paul Scholes apart, have been abysmal in relation to their assessment of the situation. Roy Keane went apoplectic when Mika Richards said Donny van der Beek. I thought he was going to punch him. He was like, oh, give me a break, Donny van der Beek's a good player. And I was just like, oh my God. Your loyalty to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is admirable. But you're paid to talk about Manchester United. You've spoken about how poor Mourinho and Van Gaal were. We've got the clips. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is performing the worst football we've seen since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. We're in the worst position we've been since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, and you're trying to spin it onto the players. I heard them talking about, you need your players to have courage and energy. And I'm like, they're bloody coached. This is not a Sunday League game where people have been on the piss the night before and they can't be arsed. This is Manchester United, Premier League match, millions watching worldwide, and you're blaming on the players because they're not running around enough. They're coached like a bunch of prats. It's so obvious that the coaching is the problem at Manchester United, and yet we're still pontificating about players. Every single player will get a clean slate for me when we get a new manager in. Everyone, whether it's Fred, McTominay, Maguire, Luke Shaw, whoever's underperforming at the moment, gets a clean slate because I know how bad the coaching is. It's just ridiculous. And I tell you what, to have Mika Richards screaming and shouting about United standards whilst Roy Keane and Gary Neville aren't, I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get my hat on it today. I'm like, we've been slammed by Leicester. I mean, can I just say as well, I didn't want to do this. Let me just read these super chats first. Watching City fans sing Ollie at the wheel, Ollie gave us a wave and Ollie in, was probably the worst moment, says Martin Wood. Oh, we're just being bantered, Martin. Even Norwich are demanding more sacking after Farke after a win. Look, Norwich have got better ambitions than our board. Watching Pep's interview and Ollie's is like night and day, says Red Baron. Mark, this team will not challenge this season until Ollie gets the sack. Gary Neville is literally another protection for Ollie. What a load of nonsense, says Victor. Look, I don't care if Gary Neville or Roy Keane or any fan wants to back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and keep him. That's absolutely fine. There's no problem with that. The flip side of the coin is those people who don't can counter it and say, what are you talking about? It's called an opinion, isn't it? Ollie, Carrick, Phelan and McKenna are better suited for Norwich than United, in my opinion, says Prince. And just imagine if Jose and Louis had this squad, they would have won. They would knowing they would with fast words. I don't know what that means, says King, but thank you very much. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. But look, let me just say to you this. Before we went into the Liverpool game, we had 1 point from 12. We then beat Spurs and had 4 points from 15. We've just lost to Man City. We've got 4 points from the last 18. 4 points from 18 for Manchester United. That means we've dropped 14 points out of 18. It's absolutely terrible. It's absolutely crap. But better than that. Remember when we came into the from the last international break and the 4 games we had were Leicester, Liverpool, Spurs and Man City. And we all said we've got to take at least 8 points. We've taken 3 from 12. He's got to go. I mean, for me, there's nothing that will surprise me about this board, but how he won't get the sack, I don't know. I think the only reason he won't get the sack is because the board are more incompetent than he has and they haven't lined anybody up. And their incompetence about ignoring Conte is disgraceful, by the way. I know people don't like Conte. And funnily enough, I heard Gary Neville saying this afternoon there was absolutely no way Manchester United were going to go with we're going to go with Conte. And I was like, why? Why would they not go with Conte? What is it about Conte that United don't like? That he's a winner. Oh, he's a bit tempestuous, but he's a winner. You know, I don't know why they dismissed that. Yet the contradiction and hypocrisy. Gary Neville is Ollie's defence attorney, says Malps. When I watch a game, I always see Phelan or Carrick on the touchline and not Ollie. That would have been the thing of a proper manager, says Lee. Talk about players' energy, but no word about the coach's energy, says Rasmus. Question mark, name a football club whose qualifications for the managerial is nice guy and ex-player, says Lusk. In my opinion, past players won't speak ill of Ollie. To do that would mean losing perks with the club or a future boys club job, says but you're not my stepmother. Self-righteousness or our ex-players have gained as pundits has blurred their lines between what's best for our club, says Seabux. And thrashed by City and Liverpool and still top Reds singing Ollie at the wheel and singing chants for Ollie, manager of our club, says Manish. And would love to see Potter's system at United. I wouldn't, Matt. I don't want to see Graham Potter at Manchester United. It's too much of a risk. I don't think we need to take a Brighton coach at Manchester United. But what we should have done is we should have took Conte at Manchester United. And what really makes me laugh is the hypocrisy for United to decide that Conte is not the man for them, and yet they allow a manager that they should have sacked after Liverpool to play Spurs and Man City with a back five, which is basically what Conte does. But we watched Ollie play with a back five, like I said this afternoon, like Stevie Wonder in a blindfold. It was ridiculous. The way he tried to set us up was an embarrassment. We played with a back seven and we conceded about 8 good chances in 45 minutes, in the first 45 minutes. And yet we don't want Conte, but we'll let Ollie play the worst derby I've ever bloody watched. As I said, if you didn't watch the derby today, I'll describe it for you in a sentence. Park the bus and submit the ball to Manchester City in a derby at Old Trafford. Basically, that's what we did. Unforgivable. Absolutely. At least against Liverpool, we tried to win. Against Man City, we tried to not get smashed. That was basically it. We were awful. And Ronaldo shaking his head again and David De Gea smashing his fist on the tunnel as he went through. They're the two leaders in that team. God knows where Harry Maguire was. If you were a top level manager, would you want to be controlled by the Glazers? Well, this is the thing, Liam. We've, the reality is, as bad as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, our board is even worse. There was an opportunity at the start of the summer and we let the foot off the pedal. You know, there was a real movement for change and they let the foot off the pedal. I mean, there's fan groups out there that we're all coming together and doing things and then it's all gone by the wayside again. And it's such a shame because the reason United fans like things like the United Stand and certain websites is because they feel as if they've got a voice. And I think certain fan groups, they just go quiet. And I think, it's a shame because we had a momentum back in May that should have been continued. Ollie should be sacked, but the next manager will probably go through the same cycle of 3 years and be sacked again. I don't see us ever being successful with the current ownership, and that is the real big problem. If you offered me tonight, I can sack Ollie or I can get rid of the Glazers, I'd get rid of the Glazers because I know the next owner would sack Ollie anyway. But ultimately, Ollie needs to go. It's scary that the Glazers thought it was acceptable to keep Ollie after week. What's stopping them from being just as incompetent this time, says Daniel. Had it not been for De Gea's saves, we could have been 17th. Says Mojo. The Canadian broadcast had Michael Owen, Scholes and Hargreaves as pundits. They were nowhere near as kind as Neville. Definitely worth the watch, says Adam Levitt. And Michael Owen was spot on when he called out United management and said United management has no vision and literally said United were rubbish, says Vabath. Mate, you know what? The horrible thing for United fans at the moment is that we are being bantered from pillar to post. Everybody is taking the piss out of us. Everybody. And the club are just allowing it to happen. But this is a true story, right? This is a true story. Friend of mine messaged me this week and said, can you get me a Manchester United away top for a friend? And I said, I doubt it. I don't really know anyone to get one. And they said, I ordered a Manchester United away top to come mid-November for my daughter with Ronaldo on the back. But I ordered it in mid-September because I thought there might be a problem. Still haven't got it. Still getting emails from the club saying that we've got a bit of a shortage. We're hoping to get it to you by December the 5th. So trying to get one off eBay or something like that. And I was like, what an eye-opener. Manchester United have got a 2-month backlog on away shirts. They're coining it in. I've never known United have 2-month backlogs on a shirt. And they're coining it in. They're making so much money. And this is the problem. The club is making so much money right now that almost what happens on the pitch, well, so what? Let's just keep it how it is. But they would love to keep it how it is, but they can't keep it how it is because it's just untenable. It's untenable. 3 points from 12, 4 from 18. we're 9 points off the top now, and that's only because Chelsea drew with Burnley. We've got Chelsea to play in a couple of weeks. We've got Arsenal to play after that. We're in massive trouble. And this manager ain't going to turn it around. He might grind a result out, but the biggest thing for me is that when we play Watford in a couple of weeks, it'll be McTominay and Fred in the midfield again. He's got to go. He's got to go. You know, and what I don't want to see is, above anything else, what I don't want to see is Solskjaer sacked as the fall guy, but we keep Carrick and McKenna and Phelan and make Darren Fletcher the interim. Sacking Solskjaer is not just... It's got to be Solskjaer, Carrick, McKenna and Phelan. They've all got to go. Like, they've got to go. But the thing is, they gave Mike Phelan a new contract 3 weeks ago. I can see them sacking Solskjaer but keeping the backroom staff. That's how incompetent and jobs for the boys this football club is. They need to clear house. Get rid of them all. The whole lot of them have got to go. As you've said before, Ollie is filling in the sandwich. There will be some other spin in PR, some frustrating, says Ryan Cave. The United Stand are making a book off Ollie out as well, aren't you, says Tidley. No, well, not really, mate, because we've been doing this for 6 years. And we've been going live at 8 o'clock for 6 years. And we've been doing match reactions and transfer stories for 6 years. It's no different to what we've ever done, mate. So stop trying to spin it round with your little bitter top red bullshit and start actually looking at what's best for the football club. Because your little bitterness about who's a proper fan and this, that and the other, I tell you what, it's boring. It's really boring because, you know what, you've been trying to do this for weeks. Oh, stick by Ollie. Proper fans, stick by Ollie. Ollie's at the wheel. And it's bullshit. Open your eyes up, accept you were wrong and realise that Ollie is just a puppet to the Glazers who are the real problem at this football club. And alright, I'm not from Manchester, I haven't got a Mancunian accent, we've got people in the chat from India and America and London and Ireland, and they're not from Manchester, but they're probably talking more sense than you, who's just been praying for the last few weeks that a manager that's clearly not good enough is going to spin it round. And the best bit is, it's a manager who's on strings for Ed Woodward and the Glazers. This football club is in a real big mess. Stop attacking each other and realise that only way forward is for everybody to realise what's going on in this football club and actually have a voice together for once instead of pettily arguing amongst each other because you want to be the best United fan out there. Well, I've got a lesson for you. No fan's better than anybody else. It's not your club, it's not my club, it's not anybody else's club, it's our club. And the way it's being run at the moment, every single person would accept is a bloody disgrace. It's a disgrace to the statues that sit outside Old Trafford. It's a disgrace to the history of this football club. People died playing for this football club, and what's happening to it now is nothing short of sabotage, and the people in charge of it should ship off and get out. But the first thing they need to do is change this management and show that we are a bloody football club for once, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and the reason people get frustrated, aggressive and angry about this is because they know what this football club's all about. It's not even just playing attacking football and challenging for titles. It's the history that we've had. It's the great players that we've had, the great managers we've had, the principles of people like Sir Alex Ferguson, Sir Matt Busby, and what they brought to this football club is being crumbled away by sabotage and incompetence, and it needs to change. And I tell you what, I might have said this afternoon that I don't think they'll sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If they don't sack Solskjaer, Carrick, McKenna, Phelan and clear out that bloody backroom staff, then what is it that we are meant to be now? Are we really just a business churning out shirt sales and everything else? Because I feel that if I can't make it happen any more than you can make it happen, but it has to happen. If Norwich are sacking a manager that's won because they think he might not keep them up and they need to make the change now, if Spurs are sacking a manager after 3 months because they think they've made a mistake, why are we, one of the biggest clubs in the world, who are obviously embarrassing ourselves week after week, after 3 years with a manager who, let's be honest, is Mr. Pragmatic, is a Norwegian Jose, but he's not very good at it, why are we still sticking by that guy? Just because he was used to be... There's a song about him in a wheel and he scored some goals as a player. His status as a player and a legend will never change. His status as a manager, his CV is terrible. It's not great. And he needs to go. Shame about the Bruno PR drama, knowing everything said even from our best buy since Fergie, meaning whatever said past and now present is through a foggy window with no pure player attached from me, says Harrison. Yeah, I haven't seen what this is all about, but apparently Bruno Fernandes has put a post out which is something to do with something else. But you know what? Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, here's a little lesson for you. They're not tweeting. They're not posting on Instagram. It's not them. It's somebody else doing it for them. And more fool you if you thought they were. They're not doing it. It's not sincere. They're not doing it. I'm from Manchester, Mark, but Ollie out. Am I considered a top red, says Red Baron. And if a new manager came in and Donny van der Beek and Pogba left, what would be your midfield? Or do we need a manager in to salvage those players, says Steve Cullen? And get me quickly, you could miss out on me and would Sean Dyche. Okay, I mean, look, there's an interesting annual there. Mark, please give us good news. When is he going to get the sack, says Saeed? And do you think a new manager could close the gap to Chelsea if they came into the job now, says Charlie Thompson? The great managers are Tuchel, Guardiola, Poch and Klopp. The reason for United being subpar is that the club didn't acquire one of those, says Tommy Johnny. Well, look, I've said this before. If we change the manager, we might be able to change the mind of some players that want to leave. I still believe that people like Anthony Martial are technically better footballers than some people that are starting for us. I certainly think Donny is. I think Pogba is. I think there's players in that club like Sancho as well that offer us more than people who are starting. So that's one positive straight away. But interestingly enough, there's still an opportunity to change this and get something out of the season. We'll get nothing out of the season if Ollie stays in charge. It's just going to be a shit show. But if they do change it now, there is an opportunity for something to happen. It's just absolute nonsense to say that Manchester United cannot make a change at this point. It really is. There are so many options for Manchester United. You know, we've got money. You can knock on the door of virtually any club in Europe and say, we want your manager. It's happened before. But my feeling is that he will go. And I don't know whether it will go tomorrow. I certainly don't think they'll announce it tonight. But my feeling is he will go. And look, I've sort of left it to the end of the video because I wanted to do it for the, sort of like the hardcore people. But as I said at the start of the video, from what I've heard is there's meetings taking place at Manchester United. Now, whether that's tonight, tomorrow or Monday, I don't know about that. But there are meetings taking place. What happened and look, you've got to grab the whole pie here. What happened after the Liverpool game is they didn't back the manager and they spent all of Monday discussing sacking him. Fabrizio Romano had a video ready about the sacking. And I looked at Pratt when it came out, but I understood why. Loads of journalists have different articles ready to adapt so they can get it out first. They discussed sacking Solskjaer and the feeling was that they didn't want to let him go. But they will have that same meeting again and only stupidity would allow them to keep him because the football's been worse. He's tried to change the formation, which is contradicting what he was trying to do before Liverpool. Players aren't happy. There's mutiny in the ranks and the fan base have given up on him. Like, everything suggests he needs to be sacked. And everybody was saying that he needed to get 3 good results against Spurs, Atalanta and Man City. And he's had 1 good result. And it's been crap football. So I think he will go. I think he has to go. I think he will go. And I'll be intrigued to see what the next step's going to be, because I wouldn't say, I think a lot of people might be excited by the fact that he's going to go, and I think he will go this time because I think he has to go. He should have gone 2 weeks ago, so he has to go this time. But I wouldn't get too excited yet because I wouldn't be surprised if the decision they made is a bad decision. Like, let's keep Phelan, Carrick and McKenna and put Darren Fletcher as the interim. That's not an improvement. Say what you like about Ollie, he doesn't coach the team. Carrick and McKenna do, and they're rubbish. Like, Ollie very early on said, I'm not the coach. I've got some of the best coaches in the world. And we know who the coaches are. So they've all got to pack their bags and go. I think it will happen. I don't know who we'll go for. I'd love it to be Zidane. I mean, that would be a complete reset and I'd be over the moon with it. A manager that comes in with no attachment to the club, who's won things that he doesn't have to be. I mean, look, the reality is, when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is asked about Gary Neville or Rio Ferdinand or Paul Scholes or Roy Keane in a press conference, they were better footballers than him. They're bigger legends than him. And it's like, well, Roy and this and Gary and that, if Zinedine Zidane gets asked about Gary Neville or Rio Ferdinand, with all due respect, he was better than them. He's won more than them as a manager, and he doesn't really have to answer questions about them. So I think we just need that. We need that reset. Professionalism, specialism. I'm fed up of this history connection. I want, forget nostalgia. Let's have specialism. And specialism is not found in nostalgia. I think the best ex-Manchester United player is probably Mark Robins at Coventry. They're in the top 6 in the Championship. No one's ever mentioned him as a Man United manager, have they? Mark Robins, probably the best manager there is, who used to play for United. People will be going, who's he? Used to play up front for us, scored some goals. You know, I wouldn't say he was a legend by any means, but he's a bloody good coach. He's done a good job at Coventry. Are we going to go and get him in? Or maybe we'll get Steve Bruce in. There's no manager with nostalgia that's good enough for Manchester United. There's no first team coach with nostalgia that's good enough for Manchester United. There's no training ground coach. We need specialism and we need a reset. That's what we need. Ollie is a legend and that is his only credential. The level of performance with the calibre of player is unacceptable. It is time, says Nilladry. I'm from Manchester. Many true Reds are not. Try telling some Irish supporters they are not real fans. Good luck with that, says Liam. The sad thing is we have so much sales and revenue while we are so bad. Imagine where we would be if we were doing well, says Anthony. Exactly. Ordered from manunited.com in February, received last week. 268 days. Our club is a disgrace and it all starts at the top. Glazers, Woodward, Judge out, says Christopher. I didn't realise this. People are ordering Manchester United shirts in September and they still haven't got them. What's the point in that? You order a shirt in September, you get it in December. That's half the season gone. That's half the value of the bloody shirt gone. That's how much money they're bloody making. You know, they haven't got enough kit to send out. I'm sorry, Sir Alex Ferguson made my childhood weekends the very best growing up in a terrible neighbourhood, but if he saves Ollie now, I'll blame him, says Gabrielle Noel. Hosin, welcome to the Members Club. Appointing Ollie is the biggest mistake in the history of Manchester United. Glazers, stop sabotaging this biggest club in the world and the fans, says Srijit. Well, look, you know what? They had to sack him after Liverpool. They didn't do it. If they don't sack him this time, it's just sabotage. It's pure and utter sabotage because everybody knows he's got to go. Rivals, fans, everybody knows he's got to go. The players know he's got to go. And if the board decide not to do it, it's just pure and utter sabotage. You know, and is it about money? Is it they don't want to spend the severance pay? Do they not want to look stupid? I mean, the not look stupid thing really doesn't matter because you've looked stupid for 8 years. Why do you think people are going to think any better of you now? But ultimately, even if you're worried about that, did Daniel Levy think he looked stupid when he sacked Nuno after 3 months? That's what decisive leadership is. Accepting you've made a mistake, but rectifying that mistake as soon as possible. You know, the greatest people in the world are the people that can say, look, I got it wrong. I made a mistake. It was with best intentions, but I made a mistake. And now I'm going to rectify that mistake. Now, obviously, that doesn't work for everything, but it certainly does in business. And that's what we're talking about here. By keeping Ollie in, the Glazers are humiliating Ollie. So a Neville and Co. for his best interest, he should be convinced to resign. He's embarrassing himself every day, says Hader. Giggs would be a good interim manager without this abuse, claims, says Arjun. I don't want an interim and I don't want an ex-player. So I disagree with you. I don't want an interim ex-player at this club. Because what if they come in and they do well and people start singing, you know, Fletcher's at the wheel. You know, I don't want that. I don't personally want it. I don't want to see it ever again. You know, maybe in 5 years' time I will, but not now. I don't want to see anybody. And if the club think getting ex-players on the board is a good idea, it's not a good idea. You know, somebody's just said there, the greatest manager we've ever had. You know, basically our father figure for many of us, Sir Alex Ferguson. And people are saying, I don't want him involved because he's just keeping Ollie there because Ollie used to play for him. Now, I don't know whether Sir Alex Ferguson is doing that or not. I mean, I cannot say anything bad about Sir Alex Ferguson. He's just a legend. But if he was saying that, hypothetically, why would he be doing that? He's one of the greatest football minds in history. Why would he see Liverpool and Man City and go, I've got to keep Ollie? And that's the thing that I have a problem with the ex-players because they've played. They know what it's all about. You know, Roy Keane said himself, it's not just about courage and energy. You've got to be able to play football as well. And we can't do any of those things. So, but what baffles me is how they cannot see that this is not good enough. And how they can think that it could get good enough. I mean, I heard this afternoon, a couple of our ex-players were saying, you know, he's got to go and get a result against Watford now. What? Why has he got to go and get a result against Watford? He's taken 3 points from 12. He's been hammered by Leicester, Liverpool and Man City and beat a terrible Spurs side. And you want to give him the Watford game as well. He's got no right to have the Watford game. He's not been here 5 minutes. He's been here 3 years. We've been here so many times. He doesn't deserve it. Did you see Ollie almost crying in an interview, says Jayling's fan? Well, you know what? I do feel on a human level that this is not very nice when somebody loses a job. It really isn't. And I blame the Glazers. I said this after the Liverpool game. If they don't sack him after the Liverpool game, it's not Ollie's fault. He can't sack himself. And one thing about Ollie is he's a glass half full, always look on the bright side, never going to quit sort of guy. which is great if you're not, but it's not great if you're not good enough. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be broken by this. The Glazers think they're being loyal, or what, I don't know what they're thinking, by standing by him. They're actually damaging the guy. He's being damaged by them standing by him. The merciful thing would be to have sacked him a long time ago. What they're actually doing is standing by him. By standing by him, they're allowing him to be ridiculed. Like, he's being ridiculed. Like, rival fans are singing his song, Ollie's at the wheel. You know, his own fans have had enough of him as a tactical coach. They think he's useless. With every passing day, his stock and, you know, what do they call it? Not demeanour. His reputation is just going further and further down. It's actually cruel what's happening to Solskjaer now. Which is why, for me, it's not really about screaming Ollie out. The decision is with the board. The board have to make this decision. If they sack Ollie, he gets $7.5 million. It's November. He can go back to Norway. He can recharge his batteries, have a nice Christmas. He's got the money. And look, money's not everything. He'll be very disappointed it didn't work out. But you know what? He's not the first manager in the world to be sacked. Mourinho's been sacked. Ancelotti's been sacked. You know, people get sacked. It's not very nice, but they do. And Ollie will recover from it. But by keeping him in post, it's just generating resentment. His reputation's in the mud. He's being ridiculed. He can't come back from this. And the reason he can't come back from it is because he's not a good coach in the first place. And neither are the people around him. And when he does get sacked, I think it will be time to have a bit of a legacy video about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's time here. But I think, I said it for a very long time, the thing for me about Ollie is that the biggest mistake was surrounding himself with incompetent people that basically match his skill level. He needed top quality elite coaches around him, and he went with, you know, people who were learning on the job or who were past it. Who would you give the captain's armband instead of Harry Maguire, says Calix. American here, doubt Glazers sack Ollie before Buccaneers NFL season ends in February. Maybe the book's off this week, owners won't be distracted and relax, says EG. Any managers who play back five against Tottenham deserves, not in United, says Filmo. When the roots rotted in a tree, the only option is to plant a new seed and chop down the old. Nothing else works, says Xander. I had to sack one of my best friends at work, but I had to separate business from friendship. Shouldn't be a personal decision, says Matt Ross. You know what, Matt? You're absolutely spot on. You're absolutely spot on, and this is the problem. This is why I never want us to employ an ex-player again, because it's the sentimentality that kills. You know, I stayed loyal to Ollie longer than I would have done Mourinho or Van Gaal, or I did. It clouds the issue. The loyalty, it's almost like being drugged. It's almost like, you know, we've been emotionally blackmailed, basically. I don't want an ex-player again, because you become too loyal to it. The way Chelsea dealt with Lampard was ruthless but correct. United have elongated this problem because it's been sentimental, and you know that's cost us a lot, you know, doing that, and I don't want to do that again. If we bring in Ten Hag or Zidane and after 2 years it's not working, nobody will be going, let's stick by him and let's be loyal. Some people will, but the majority will be, he's not got any attachment to the club, it's not worked out, get rid of him. The same way we did with Moyes and Van Gaal and Mourinho, and that's the way it should be. Ollie should stick his 4-2-3-1, and if there's weaknesses, they should be replaced. You buy Sancho for 75 million and play 5-3-2, says Bradley. Wild thoughts, what do you think about Sir Alex returning? No, I don't want Sir Alex Ferguson to return. Be like George Foreman coming out of bloody boxing. You know, he needs to retire. He has retired, and he needs to enjoy his retirement. 4 clubs rightfully sacked recently, and United don't, says Quinstar. And I've always been Ollie out for one reason. There were never any patterns of play to coaches to play through a high press, says Sam. Look, you know what? One thing I don't like in life is I told you so, people, because it comes from an area of smugness. Now, some of you were Ollie out last season, and some people have been Ollie out for like a long time, and they'll sit there and go, I told you 2 years ago, I told you a year ago. And that is their opinion. I'm not saying it's, you know, they're wrong, but what I would say is that, you know, I was Ollie out and I was Ollie in until Liverpool. And when people were saying we need to sack Ollie after the Europa League final, I was like, well, we've just finished second in the league. I don't think it was right to sack him when we finished second in the league. There has to be, you know, I think every manager deserves a chance, and he's more than had his chance. And now, you know, over the last 3 weeks, it's been abundantly clear that it's time to go. I know some of you would have done it a lot sooner, but for me, I think the perfect time was after the Liverpool game. Answer my super chats, please, Mark, says Untitled. I haven't seen them, mate. They're whizzing through. Gary Neville would be a brilliant replacement. Will steady the ship. God, no. You're doing that to wind me up, Andrew. God, he'd be worse than Solskjaer, mate. He's, by his own admission, he's not a coach. No way. I've always been Ollie out for one reason. Okay. There was actually a point today where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was being interviewed, and they basically said to him that the players have said something along the lines that they're lacking trust or something like that. And Ollie said, "Who said that?" And it was Harry Maguire who'd said it. And Ollie's face just looked really angry. But look, as I said before, whether the players are downing tools or not, they are downing tools, and it might not be done on purpose. But if they're trying for Ollie, it's one thing to say you're not a very good coach, I'm not going to try anymore. I think United players are trying. They just don't know how to do it from the instructions that they're getting because they're so badly coached. But I do think he's going to get the sack. I don't know when it's going to be. I doubt it would be tonight now. I don't know whether they'd do it on a Sunday. I would expect it would happen on Monday, possibly Tuesday, and we'd get a new manager by Wednesday. And I know that sounds like, well, you're in the know, but that's what should happen. That's what should happen. And the great thing is, if we could get it's international break, right? So there'll be some players playing in internationals, but there'll be a lot of players still at Old Trafford. Mason Greenwood, Danny van der Beek, Anthony Martial, Jadon Sancho. There are some big players that will still be back at Old Trafford. And a new manager can come in and start getting things going. So let's crack on with it. Let's get it done. And as I said, I don't see how they can't do it this time. It's got to happen, and I know that things are going on. United are keeping a tight ship again, but they kept a tight ship on the Monday after the Liverpool game as well. So I think it will happen. It could happen tomorrow, but my worst fear is they sack Solskjaer and they keep Carrick and McKenna and Phelan, because that would be a disgrace, and it should be called out as a disgrace. And I hope the media call it out as a disgrace, because we've been absolutely 100% educated over the last 3 years that Ollie is the manager, Phelan's the assistant, and that Carrick and McKenna do the coaching. If you sack Ollie, they are the most team management team I've ever seen. Like they refer and confer on everything. They are a team of 4 people. They all must go. You can't just throw Ollie under the bus. It's not fair. They must go collectively because they've been managing collectively. Norwich got 5 points in the last 6 games. We've got 4 points. Guess which club got rid of their manager, says My Big Melons. And do you think Steve Bruce or Roy Keane or even Ryan Giggs or Wayne Rooney could be better as managers? I don't want any Rory. I'm not even going to entertain about what Roy Keane didn't do particularly well. He was okay. Steve Bruce has done okay. Ryan Giggs has done okay. Wayne Rooney's not doing particularly well at Derby. But I don't want... Do you want to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with another ex-player that you're emotionally attached to, that you want to do well because you remember how good they were as a player? And do you want to go through another 3 years where it gets worse and worse and worse, but you refuse to say, I want that manager out because you're thinking back to the good old times? It's not a good fit. It very rarely works, and it's not a good fit, and it cannot be allowed to happen again. The Glazers like it to happen because then they've got that sentimentality pull, but it can't be allowed to go. Could be Rooney as the interim, would be a disaster, but right up this board's alley. I don't want Rooney anywhere near it. I just don't want an ex-player. There's a very tight-knit group of our ex-players in the media, and they're very close to Ollie and Carrick, and it's been the downfall of this football club. We see it. As an ex-player of any football club, you are paid to be unbiased. And we have seen bias under the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer regime. It's not just recently, it's just because Ollie should have been sacked recently that it's come to pass. They've been biased towards Ollie for 3 years compared to how they treated Mourinho and Van Gaal. And they don't like Mourinho and Van Gaal because they're outsiders and they don't know them and they haven't got an into them. And they're there at their club making decisions and they don't like it. But when Ollie does it, well, they know Ollie. He's a mate. And it's like, let's protect him. Media... ex-players, whatever you want to call them, when they're in the media and they're being paid lots of money to go on Sky or BT or Talk Sport, you are there to be unbiased and offer an unbiased opinion. And that's what I want to see. And they are more unbiased when they don't know the manager. I think our ex-players become better pundits when we have a manager that they don't know. I don't want a manager that they know, that we know. It's sentimental, and everyone falls into a trap of sentimentality. I fell into the trap. I stuck by Ollie way too long. And I don't regret that, but I did because it was Ollie. Pundits, our ex-players, just won't go in on Ollie because he's their mate. And we've all become infected by this sentimentality, and I don't want to see it again. I want to see a reset, and I'll keep saying it. Sir Alex Ferguson's the greatest manager I've ever seen. He came to England with nothing to do with Manchester United. He came down from Scotland, from Aberdeen, and he took Manchester United and he rejuvenated it, and he developed youth, and he found an attacking style of play, and we dominated the world. Well, we dominated England. And he had nothing to do with Manchester United. So why are people obsessed with getting ex-players in? Go and get a manager that can rejuvenate this club, that can play with the youth and also play attacking football. And let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Can you call Joel Anderson a prat, says Pi. And what about Ralph Rangnick? Well, look, he has been mentioned. He's 63, so it's not long term. But what I certainly think he could do is come in and steady the ship and get us top 4, maybe win a trophy, and then next summer, what United need to do is that Lingard wants to go, Sancho's not happy, Telles wants to go, Van der Beek wants to go, Martial wants to go, Pogba wants to go. I don't think Rashford's particularly, I don't think anybody is flying at all at the moment. So, let's see. Can't wait for Donny and Sancho to be given a chance under a new manager, says Ben. Somebody just said something about De Gea. Let's have a look. David De Gea. Oh, he's just tweeted that he's hurt. I mean, look. At the end of the day, I feel that, it's... I just feel that it needs to end. And I think that, it needs to end for everybody. I think it needs to end for Ollie. I think Ollie will be a better person in the future if this ends, because, it can't be a nice situation for him. Be better for the players, be better for the fan base, be better for the club. The only people who can get this decision done are the owners. Let's get it done. I wouldn't want Roy Keane as a manager, but I would like to see him as a coach or maybe even assistant manager to get some passion in, says Kieran. I was mocking sort of Fred and McTominay before the game, saying it's all about passion. It's all about passion. And I'm like, why are people obsessed with passion? Does Pep Guardiola, he is passionate, Klopp's passionate, Tuchel's passionate, Conte's passionate, but why do we need to bring Roy Keane into the dressing room to shout at people and get some passion going? Like, surely the big issue is that why are Man City able to be passionate and play good football? Why can Chelsea do it? Why can Liverpool do it? Because they're good players, coached correctly. We don't need Roy Keane to come and give them a kick up the backside. What we need is somebody to come in and coach them properly and get rid of some of these players that aren't good enough and get better players in. I read today that I think somebody gave Aaron Wan-Bissaka a 1 out of 10 and said he's looking like a flop. But then Harry Maguire got a 5. And I was like, Aaron Wan-Bissaka was actually played really well against Spurs. He was a contender for man of the match. Harry Maguire wasn't. Harry Maguire's been bad for about a month. If anyone needs to be associated with the word flop, it's Harry Maguire. So, some of these players might not be good enough. But what we don't know at the moment is, until they have a proper coach, we'll never find out who's good enough and who's not, And that's why it's a clean slate for me, but we've got to change the manager. Anyway, look, we could talk and talk and talk. Hopefully at some point we'll be reacting to the sacking and, stepping forward as a football club, because that needs to happen. Spot on, says Sam. Ferguson, Klopp, Pep had no affiliation to their clubs. They stamped their identity on the club because they are ruthless winners. Kieran says, I wouldn't want Roy Keane as a manager. Okay. De Gea picked a fight with Old Trafford. Old Trafford won, says Roger Benjamin. I don't think David De Gea's post means he's hurt his hand. I think he means he's hurt professionally by the loss, Anyway, please smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Obviously, we've got all the vlogs from outside the ground with Adam and everything. You can check those out. I will be back in the morning. I think it's going to be, unfortunately, another couple of days, a little bit like we had around Liverpool, where it's going to be waiting for this decision to happen. I just hope at the end of it, we're not in a situation where we're waiting to see what happens. Sorry, somebody just put a tweet out here. I just want to check it and see what it's all about. But yeah, it could be a tense couple of hours, couple of days really. Okay. So Rudy Galletti, who's Italian, basically saying United are looking for a new manager. Well, they are looking for a new manager, but the problem is they turned down Conte when they should have probably took him, and I don't know whether we've got anybody lined up. Let's see. Anyway, look, I'll be back in the morning at 10 o'clock. Make sure you tune in for that. Have a fantastic evening or day. You know, go and watch a film. Go and chill out. There's nothing we can do. United failed today. They embarrassed us today. It's the worst. I think it's worse than the Liverpool game. I thought it was an absolute embarrassment to walk out in front of 75,000 fans at Old Trafford in a derby and basically surrender from the first minute is appalling. That's not Manchester United, and we need to get our club back as soon as possible. And it starts, obviously, with a change in manager. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all in a bit.